Happy Tuesday, the 28th of March, 2023. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zac and Toby. I'm Zac, he's Toby. He's Toby, I'm Zac. I'm Toby, That's not right.
No, that's not right.
I thought I was on a roll there. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. I'll apologise to more so the viewers because the listeners won't hear, but I might yawn every once in a while. I apologise if I do halfway through it, but that's the life at the moment. So, but apart from that, good. Yeah, good.
I'll have to start trying to sing a song on the other side
Yeah, do it. Do it.
of the pod so the face shifts to me.
That's right. Do that. But yeah,
But
good.
that's punishing the viewers and listeners anyway. So it's a lose-lose for some people tonight. Oh well.
But yeah, apart from that, all good. Went to Melbourne for work last week, so that was fun. But yeah, then Friday was ruined. So at least I don't have to wait till Sunday for my week to be ruined. So that was good.
That is good. I tell you what, you're very positive the last few weeks. You've been starting off the pods on a real kick.
Not a lot to be positive about, but you know what? Let's try to find a silver lining. Silver lining is,
Mate, even Ian Frank's diary had some positivity in it. Come on.
I don't know if it did, but sure. Silver lining is we're not going to get relocated. That's a silver lining.
Yeah, that's a silver lining.
Yeah. So
good work. We're not 0-5 yet. We've only played 4 games, so I don't know how that'd be possible. But we're not 0-5. We're also not 0-6. We're not 0-20.
We're not. But something tells me we'll stuff something up and not get the bye points in round 8. So
yeah, well, the odds are. I think Sportsbet put out the odds the other day, and I think we're paying $1.93 versus $1.87. So that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, look, that bye round, it's definitely going to be a tricky one for us. I'm not confident.
It's touch and go. It's definitely the old toss of a coin.
Especially if you have Brooks at halfback for that game. I'm really not confident in the defense or the attack that Brooks has against the bye round. So
who's that? Seeing you, rookie or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's his first couple of games. He definitely hasn't played 193. I can tell you that.
The next Andrew Johns, is that?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. The next barge ass.
Ah, Daly M, halfback of the year, 2018.
That's right.
Brooksy.
Yeah.
Brooksy, I knew that name sounded familiar.
It sounded very familiar when I was when it was in commentary and sort of clicked as well.
Yeah.
I remember I was looking forward to seeing his debut last week. I thought it was good. Heard a lot of good things coming from him. I think he's still, he's obviously very green still, has a lot to learn about the game. I'm sure that'll come after 193 games. I'm sure he'll learn a fair bit and be able to make the right choices in attack after 193 games. Sure of it. Absolutely
sure. There's some potential there. I heard he's off contract at the end of the year. We've got to put an end to that. 4 or 5 year extension maybe.
Yeah. I heard that there's a good chance that he's he's the next multi-million-dollar contract player, like $1 million a year player. So definitely need to jump on top of that. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel bad. Sorry, Brooksy.
I'm not. I'm not at all. You might be a bloke, mate, but time for you to leave.
He's a human being. Come on now.
Yeah, that's all right. But, so are we, and we have to deal with that shit week in, week out. We have more passion for that club than he does. We have more passion for that club and our little finger than he does at all. Think how much it hurts us to watch the Tigers lose week in and week out and put up that sort of performance. You don't want to play. You want to make the wrong choices. Go play Super League. I'm sure you'll carve it up over there.
Don't stop. Keep it up. You're on a tear, mate. This is good.
No, it's good. It's good. I said it last week. I mean, I said it last year. I was definitely off Brooks Island. I'm not coming back on. Yeah, that fucking island has been blown up and sunk.
Yeah, that little phrase has been ripped off one of the other podcasts that we like to plug. And yes, I think that the support for Brooksy as the halfback of our club has been shrinking for a long time, but I think the first 4 weeks of this season have definitely increased the rapidity or the rate at which people are off him, to be honest. And look,
can you blame them?
No, as you said, he's a He's a good bloke. He's a humble fella. He's a quiet guy. He's got his little family and stuff now. But I think it's gotten to the point where, as the halfback of this club, the proof was always going to be in the pudding, and the underlying argument was always along the lines of the fact that his whole career he's never had a squad of any note or any talent really around him, particularly in the forward pack. It's taken us 4 games to see what he can do in the meantime, and there's not, to be perfectly honest, there's not really a whole lot of anything he's showing. He seems to almost look worse, which is really disappointing. I didn't see it actually being this bad. I thought worst case scenario was we would get more of the same from him, but he looks that shot to pieces at the moment, confidence wise. Every option he takes seems to be the wrong one, unfortunately. And so, despite the fact he's named at 7 this week, I don't see a way forward for him at this club. I don't. It's not. I'm not exactly Confucius or Homer or Socrates or Nostradamus for saying that, but
I think Confucius was the right one you were going for then, but that's cool.
Oh, they were all visionaries of some description.
But yeah,
I wasn't talking about a prediction. I was just talking about a wise man. Confucius was a wise man. You'd have to be Confucius to say that. I think his time here is done, and unfortunately for him, it would be impossible to imagine that there would be an extension forthcoming in the next few weeks when the club does sit down over the bye round and start to talk turkey with a few of the off-contract players at the club. What do you think?
I 100% agree that is a conversation they should have. I am not confident they're going to have it, if I'm being honest. I think that, they kept Brooks around apart from, obviously Hastings and Bateman had that possible rift that they had over in England. I don't know if that was ever actually proven. It was just said that they didn't get along.
But it comes from somewhere.
Oh yeah, it probably comes from the media because we all know they tell the right thing. But yeah, they kept him around for a reason, probably because they thought they could get something out of him. And I've got a feeling that they're stubborn enough to think that they can still turn this around, and they might offer him a 1-year extension. And that will be, in all honesty, if they do that, they have to expect a fan revolt. They have to expect us just to say, you'd have no idea what you're doing. No idea. Right now, you get a lot of people on Brooks' side saying, oh, he cops a lot of flack, he cops a lot of this, he cops a lot of that. You can't take it. Go be a chippy. Go be a teacher. Go be something else. Go be something where you're not in the spotlight. You don't cop flack. If you're paid $1 million a year, you're going to cop flack if you don't perform. I think Cooper Croft would have copped flack, but it was few and far between because he was worth $1 million. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah.
So you reckon they're going to give him a 1-year extension?
Or
you wouldn't be surprised
if they did. I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't see him doing it.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Yeah, I think they will let his contract run out over the course of the year and do what they can in the meantime, whilst they're behind the scenes, hopefully working on, fortunately, what looks like a plan B after Mitchell Moses committed to the Eels last week.
Yeah, which none of us are surprised about. We thought that was going to be the case. At the end of it, I remember when we had the first, we all heard the first rumors. We were
been coming for a while.
Yeah, we were going to say that we were right there saying, I think he's going to sign, et cetera, et cetera. But then the more it dragged on, the less confident we all became about it. And yeah, the final result is not surprising.
No, and good luck to him. So tonight we wanted to have a bit of a talk about feasible half options, possibly fullback options as well. Before we do, I guess we'll just do a quick recap of the Melbourne game. So we went down 24-12 down there at Amy Park, which any other year you would assume that's not a bad effort considering Melbourne, how formidable that they are. as a team and as a club, and particularly down in their home ground. They have been somewhat decimated with injury, however. They were primarily missing Nelson Asafa-Solomona and Jerome Hughes. Pappenhausen obviously is out, but Pappenhausen has essentially been out for the last 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
So they were still a side that included the likes of Olam, Coates, Munster, Harry Grant. Their front row still had Christian Welsh. So, they're still quite a strong club with some absolutely world-class players in it. So they were never going to be as weak as what they maybe were the last couple of weeks prior. And by all accounts, from what you could hear, we watched the game, obviously, but they tended to play better than they have in the last couple of weeks as well. So we, again, played another team back into form. It wasn't a complete blowout, but it looked like it could have gone that way after that first half.
Yep.
I guess, mate, what's something that caught your eye, negative or positive?
What caught my eye actually was he may be named at second row, but I think we found our lock in Bateman. I think Bateman is 100%. I think you watch almost every single time Appy took the ball, Bateman was there. Almost every single time. And that's the second rower doing that. I think he wasn't the only one. I think the support for Appy was a lot more evident this week than it has been in previous weeks. So they're definitely working on that. And, Appy's teaching them the ropes. Apart from that, it took a second rower and our 30-year-old hooker to get us on the boards, because legitimately we had 3 absolute sitters there ready to go over, and Brooks took the wrong option every single time. So there's my shit sandwich, really. Good things, like a shit thing wrapped in some good things.
Yeah, Brooks had an absolute shocker. And I went back and watched the first half tries today, and it only gets worse, to be honest.
Yep.
So a couple of weeks ago, we sat back and I broke down the opposition tries against the Bulldogs, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
This time I won't go into the same degree against Melbourne, but essentially the first 2 tries, which came on Brooks's side, were both Brooks's fault. The reason being is he turned in on the man that he didn't need to turn in on. And when he turned in on the man as the second tackler, he didn't wrap up the football, and that allowed an offload on the first occasion, and on both occasions. So the first occasion, he turned in, and who's on his side? Papali'i had covered who he needed to have covered. Brooks turned his shoulder inward, and that allowed a offload out the back. That then continued to be offloaded. We saw Junior Tupou come in and make a ball and all tackle. The offload got popped out the back again, and then we saw them score in the corner after Adam Dewey's very poor attempt at a cover tackle. Really disappointed by that effort. But that was caused by Brooks. Brooks came in as a second tackler to a man he didn't need to. If he wrapped up the ball well enough then it would have been fine, but he turned that second shoulder in. He turned the shoulder in. On the second one, we had, I can't remember if 12 was Liera, I think it was. For some reason, Liera was running on a sweep play, and he had the other second rower, Eli Katoa, on the outside. Again, Papali'i had Liera covered, and Brooks turned the shoulder inward and made the second tackle, but he went midsection. Papali'i went low. Again, he failed to wrap up the ball as the second man in. If you're going to come as that second man in, or you're going to turn that shoulder on the inside ball runner, you need 1 or 2 things to happen. You need to kill the ball there and make sure you make contact so you end that tackle. Because if you don't, it opens up immediate overlap out the back.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to make sure that if you're going to turn that shoulder in, that the 2 outside men, your center and your winger, are right there ready to react to that. Because if that's the case and you turn your shoulder in on that man, that second rower that's coming through, whether he has the ball or not, the outside men are exposed unless they are right there ready to rush in. So in both of those instances, Brooks turned that shoulder in, failed to wrap up the ball. In both instances, they actually went short. They didn't go out the back. So it wasn't the fact that the outside men were exposed to an overlap. What it was that he didn't wrap up the ball carrier, even though he went high. So in the second instance, Liero popped the ball straight to Katoa, who went straight through in a simple draw and pass to Meany. He was backing up on the outside. So both of those first tries were Brooks's fault, wholly and solely. I actually watched the first 20 minutes, or first 30 minutes for that matter, in detail of defense, our defensive structures, and our defense didn't look like getting busted. They were actually coming up relatively well. They were sliding relatively well. They had everybody covered until Brooks made those two mistakes, turning that shoulder in, and that was it. They capitalised, and it's been the same over the course of the month. Every time we talk about an instance where we make minor defensive lapses, these teams have been good enough to capitalise on them. And geez, it's frustrating. I mean, it's good from these experienced teams. You expect it, I guess, in many ways, but bloody hell, it's frustrating. These small little lapses, and it's down to Brooks. And then, unfortunately, fortunately, we had Bateman then provide a bit of off-the-cuff jinking sideways to then throw to Papali'i, who threw it through a simple draw and pass to Kapoa, who scored in the corner to get us back to 12-6. We then marched downfield not too long after, about 70 or 80 metres on the trot, and Brooks put the bomb up for a simple catch in the in goal, far too deep. They roll downfield on a 7-tackle set, and they score off a bat-back high ball off Xavier Coates that happens to land in front of Justin Olam. So again, the lack of execution from Brooks hands the ball back in a 7-tackle set to the opposition, where we were on the hunt and momentum was flying. It gets worse. In the second half, when we were coming back and we were on the way back, we had, again, it was a little bit of individual brilliance. That is demoralising in and of itself, given that our halves didn't create any tries on the weekend, where Appy kicked through for himself and scored that try. Off the back of that, the score was, 22-12 at that point? Yeah, it was 22-12. And we had all the momentum. We were actually flying. We were making meters at ease. We were going really well. We had a scrum on just past the halfway line. Mm-hmm. And for those who didn't watch it, we lost the scrum against the feed when we had our tails up, and we were flying. We had about half an hour to go in the game, and it was only a couple of tries. There was 10 points in it. So we were coming at them hard. And we saw, when we have momentum, what we did against the Bulldogs, 3 tries in 4 minutes. We saw if we get in those situations and we capitalise, we can make teams pay really quick. So they'd fought back into the game reasonably well. Now, the confusing thing, well, the fact I said it gets worse is the fact that who fed that scrum?
Brooks.
If somebody is raking or hooking with their leg, my understanding was that was illegal. And how many times do you see somebody raking at the football? I've heard the ref physically say, don't hook at the football, to the opposition hooker. Don't hook at the football. You can push in scrums, but my understanding was they aren't allowed to hook in them anymore. And how many scrums have you seen repacked because the opposition team was hooking with their foot?
Yeah. Well,
so it's one either that scrum was illegal, or Brooks should have waited, should have seen what was happening, and been able to feed the scrum in such a way where it didn't happen.
Yeah. Even Blocker said in commentary, I haven't seen that in 30 years.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because it has happened. It happened 10 years ago in the semi-final, and Anasta kicked a field goal. Shut up, Blocker. But the point he was trying to make, I guess, was what we just said, which was it doesn't get allowed. Refs just repack the scrum. Anyway, Brooks wasn't the only person that made mistakes, but as has been the case this year, key mistakes at key times that are costing points and leading directly to games. It's a dot to dot. And it was Dewey a week or two ago. It's been Brooks in many ways over the course of the first month. And on the weekend, it just got worse and worse and worse. And it just seems like every time we get into a position where we're starting to do something in a game at the moment, the club has had a brainstorming session to try to figure out a brand new and inventive way to lose football games. Like they dead set invent new ways to stuff up every week. And losing a scrum against the feed, we haven't done that for a little while. So let's pull that one out of the hat. So not only is Brooks's attacking options at the moment really struggling, and well, his decision making is completely shot the same way that Dewey's is, evidently, which is really encouraging for our first choice halves. But his defensive, and it's not his defensive technique, it's not his defensive ability or his effort in defense. His defensive decision making is also directly costing tries and upsetting our structure. Now, every half in every team gets targeted as their link man, their second rower on the inside, the half, and then their center. Every team challenges those edges. That's what teams do. It's not the only thing they do, but clearly that's what they do because they are often breakdown points or weak points in a defensive structure. Often the half is the weakest defender. Often the center is the major decision maker. We've spoken about that before. So that's not news, but yeah, he is costing us points on both sides of the football, which is exactly what we said about Dewey last week. And yeah, I don't know. It's a big problem, and it sort of led us to talking a little bit more about what we'll talk about shortly, which is what do we do moving forward with the squad, and specifically, what are the areas of biggest issue? I think we've basically just Bob Ross painted a giant picture for you, but we'll get to that in one moment. Before we do, let's do you have any positives from the game? To be perfectly frank, I've got a good little handful, but I'll give you the floor. I've spoke for a little bit now.
Oh, I think I've already mentioned some of the positives already. Appy's support play was definitely a big one. I think I saw that quite a bit. I saw, I think our forwards are just absolutely like especially our fronties. I think our fronties are just leading the way the whole way. I, God, for me, Pole just gets better and better every game. You're a big fan of him before anyone knew his name, and I know why. And yeah, I didn't mind seeing Dewey at fullback, to be honest. I think he, apart from that one very abysmal attempt at a tackle, he definitely added a lot more value in attack than Laurie does. It might not be as quick as Laurie, but we never get in a position to actually see Laurie have that speed. So, and I think one more positive is I think Junior Tubo has solidified himself on one of those wings by far. I think his kick returns are top notch. He's a strong body. He always breaks at least the first tackle, if not the first two. Always. You watched any run he had, he would fend off the first tackle straight away. Sometimes he'd fend off a few before he'd get tackled. So he's just a big body that's, quick, hard to tackle. He reminds me a lot of the way he runs of Tuaki. So if you think about it, like Tuaki was just, I'm not going to step over you. I'm not going to step around you. I'm going to run over the top of you.
And he's obviously still growing into his body. He'll only get bigger.
That's scary. So
yeah, no, he's come along really well, which is great. So, and I think, as you said, I don't know how much first grade Nofaluma is going to see at the West Tigers moving forward. So I think that, and with Kenny Mamalo obviously moving to the Titans last week, he's got a bit of a mortgage on that spot now, so it's his to lose. So,
no, I think we found another one in Staines. I think Staines has been good. He hasn't been world breaking or anything like that, but he's done enough to solidify himself in that squad as well. He's right now, that is our best wing options we've had in a while, I think. Because we've always had Noffa. No one felt the need to get rid of Noffa because, he was winger of the year. I think probably the same year that Brooks was, maybe the year after. And then he re-signed for 4 years and stopped giving a shit. So, yeah, happy to see the back of him as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I actually think that the centre selection on the weekend and then subsequently who has been chosen tonight in Naden and AJ, I think they're looking like a a reasonably good little centre pairing now. I'm actually relatively happy. I know Naden had a quiet game on the weekend, but AJ keeps going from strength to strength. I believe that those two are a centre pairing that are capable of are a semi-final worthy centre pairing. So I know in years gone by, we've looked at things like a gun centre or something like that as a key signing. I think that we've moved away from the requirements of certain other requirements in the squad, and I think we've really narrowed our focus, and that's what we'll get to in a moment. But I'm pretty happy with them. As you said, I'm pretty happy with the wings at the moment. I'm happy to give that time at the very least. I still am concerned with Dewey at the back. If he comes up against a team and a decent halfback, I think that having Pizzette there, they didn't work him over as much as what someone like a Reynolds this week will. I think Reynolds will really give him a hard time positionally.
Yeah.
And that worries me. But he's obviously a good talker. He's a big body. He seemed to be able to get some decent carries at the back, but I don't think he was truly tested on the weekend, Dewey. But for now, if he keeps playing that way and he's safe and he's a talker and he can provide, again, like I said, a little bit of penetration out of the background and out of the backfield, and then starting to slowly, I guess, work his way into the attacking structures, then albeit I had a bit of a thought about Dewey a couple of days ago, a bit of an epiphany, and I think that he is quite a good footballer. I think Dewey's best position, as I've said in the past, I think would be lock. I think he would have to grow into it. But I think generally speaking, Dewey will give you a lot of value on the field if he is in a position where he doesn't have to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So that lends himself to pulling out of 5'8", where obviously a key playmaker and decision maker, and probably centre as well, because defensively, as we've said many times, they are the biggest decision makers on the field, in our opinion.
Yeah.
So I think possibly fullback for that reason could be helpful, because it does take the pressure off the decision-making component. He can chime in attack when he needs to. And in defence, he's not making a whole lot of decisions. He might make the odd positional decision, but generally speaking, he's coordinating the troops around from the back.
Yeah.
And he's just, it's catching bombs, it's diffusing kicks, it's that sort of stuff. So I think then possibly it might be his second best position, provided he can get some Ks in the legs and making sure that he's still nimble enough that he can cover the field positionally.
Yeah, I think with Dewey too, he, like you said, he is a smart footballer, and that you can see that in how he's positioned himself. So I think the fact that he wants to play in the half, but he's obviously not a half in our eyes anymore. I don't even know if he really was. Maybe he was just the best we had at the time. But the fact that he has that mindset, maybe he still really watches the halves a lot more than another fullback who hasn't particularly played in the halves much. He watches the halves a lot more, which means he can kind of understand where they might kick to and be there before we expect him to. So that could help as well.
Yeah, I think so. So you're talking anticipation.
Yeah,
that's part of understanding the game too.
Yeah, he's a smart footballer. There's no two ways about that. And that's the thing. Like, you get into the NRL level by being a smart footballer. So again, I did some Brooks bashing, and I'll continue to do some Brooks bashing until he signs. What is that? Somebody's phone's going off.
Yeah, it's my phone. It's just started talking.
That's
sorry, mate. You carry on.
That's all right. You just wanted to throw me off and freak me out, and wondering what the hell that noise is.
They just started talking out of nowhere.
Put your phone on bloody silent, mate. That's what we do.
Yes.
But yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that now.
No, just talking about Dewey, yeah.
Oh no, Brooks bashing.
Anticipation.
I said the Brooks bashing. I said I've bashed Brooks at the start of this, and
leave Brooksy alone.
I'll continue to bash him until he packs up and leaves. He's done. But he's got a mind for football. He just doesn't make the right decisions more often than not. And the decisions that he does make is usually one that costs us dearly. And it's been almost longer than 18 months now. I've been saying this for a while now, that he's not our half. And I think a lot of other people are starting to come to the table now. But yeah, I think having him there definitely, I think, like you said, benefits us if he can get on the field without making too many critical decisions. So
at least for now.
Yeah.
He might grow back into a decision maker as confidence builds over time. But for now, he's too good of a footballer to leave out of the squad, particularly in our squad, but he can't be in key decision-making
No.
positions, in my opinion. Or I think he's going to be best served for the side
Yeah. No, I agree.
in that way. I agree with everything you said about the players you mentioned. I think there's some really good positive signs. I think Tupou's coming along brilliantly, as we said. I think Staines is serviceable and doing a decent enough job as wing, and obviously he provides a bit of fullback coverage there. I think the forward pack is slowly growing in strength. I think that Clemmer is an absolute rock up front, and we'd be really lost without him.
Yep.
I
He's been
want to
one
see
of
a
the
bit more
best
out of.
signings for a while.
Yeah, he's just come in and done exactly what he was signed to do, which is something we haven't been able to say about a notable signing in a long time. So that's really pleasing. I think Papali is slowly coming on, which I like. He had probably his most complete performance on the weekend, and he
Agreed.
made 30 odd tackles. I can't remember what he ran for. I think he ran for 80, 90, maybe up over 100 meters, close to that. No
He
errors,
also
no
ran some very
mistakes.
good lines too. If you noticed, he ran.
Great lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
great lines. Defended well. So I think that he and Capoe, if they can stay on that side, are really going to start to work really well together. I really like that combination. Both of them run brilliant lines, so I can see that being used quite a lot. I agree on Pole. I thought exactly the same thing. I thought that was his best performance for the year. He ran for well over 100 meters, which was really pleasing.
And
Played big minutes,
the
looked
thing is, too,
dangerous.
he hasn't had a bad game this year. That's the thing too.
Mm,
That was his best performance of the year, and it's not saying that it's what's better than shit everything. It was like
yeah.
he actually has been playing quite well, and this was probably his most complete performance.
Yeah, I don't think he's had that breakout performance that we sometimes see with up and coming players, but I don't think it's too far away if he has one.
No.
He just needs to keep doing what he's doing. Bateman's going from strength to strength in the last couple of weeks. Having somebody like that there makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
It's so rare to see someone so competitive and passionate in our colours. It's lovely. Like it makes me so excited. um, and I just want more of it, just hooking into my veins, the passion that he has. So yeah, it's very pleasing. They're all coming along quite well. Back, I think Abby as well is starting to click a little better. I think every week we are actually getting a little better and a little better and a little better. And on the weekend, the difference was primarily our half opportunities. So our ability to create points via our halves, and just a couple of small moments. Because in terms of the stats, they had the better of us, but they had a little bit of better possession. But our forwards had no trouble holding up the middle. Our defense was far better. They scored, like I said, they scored a try off a kick deflection, and they scored a try from 40, 45 meters out because of a poor read from one of our halves. I won't mention who, but
Ah,
the defense on goal line, with considering Harry Grant didn't have a try assist on the weekend, which
yeah.
is a fair effort for Melbourne. Melbourne without Jerome Hughes, so a lot of it would have come from Harry Grant. They kept him at bay relatively well. Munster scored following a forward pass, like a blatant
Like
forward pass on the
even
tackle before.
you have a
So
look at
outside,
Munster's. You have a look at Munster's eyes after he looks directly at the ref
it
because
was
even he knew it was
ridiculous.
forward. Even he knew it was forward.
Oh. Did you see the Brad Parker to Turbo or to Schuster one that was
Wasn't
called?
that from the ones that I looked at? It looked like he passed before the line and as in after the line, sorry, and Turbo caught it before the line, which is very, very clear backwards.
No. It he passed it from before the line and Turbo caught it on the line. So it ended up a meter plus forward in front
Oh,
of
okay.
where
Yeah,
he threw it.
probably saw the
But the
image.
ball clearly the ball, his hands, his body, everything is facing backwards. He was just running at 22 Ks an hour. So of course the ball's going to move over time, and it was a lofty pass. It went clearly backwards. They called that, yet like the one that was thrown, I don't know if he must have threw the ball or if he received the ball or what it was on the tackle before, but it was almost a penalty because the bloke was nearly in front of him when he threw it. It might have been Pizzette that threw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It was blatantly a meter forward. It was horrible. So that shouldn't have been a try. Relatively we did a relatively good job, sorry, of containing Munster. So I think the defense, all in all, was pretty good. I think the team is building. I think we're doing the fundamentals really well. I think Not I think. I know for a fact that 0-4 is horrible and we're desperate for a win. But this side is doing all the little things so much better than what we have in the last 2 or 3 years. And I know it's really hard to see. And I know that nobody wants to do this, but I challenge you to go back and watch the games that we've played so far this year and watch them clearly. Watch each set, watch the positional play, and even week to week, game to game, if you can, because defensively we are better. Organisationally, we are getting better. It is just, as we've said, the half options at the moment are horrid. The choices being made by key position players, key playmakers at key times are costing us so badly. And it's just standing out like a sore thumb. But the team itself, underneath it all, the stuff that is harder to notice is actually really good.
Yeah.
Quite good.
I put this in our chat just before. We are first for lines engaged, which means we're taking more hit ups than anyone else. We're fourth for post contact meters, second for tackle breaks, third for running meters, second for runs, first for offloads, fourth for supports. All of that.
Just haven't. You might just run through that list quickly again for me, just because we're just having a couple of internet bits and pieces, so we might have just missed a couple of them there. Just go quickly again.
So first for lines engaged.
Yeah.
Fourth for post contact meters. Second for tackle breaks. Third for running meters. Second for runs. First for offloads. Fourth for supports.
There you go.
Does that sound like a team that is running bottom of the ladder?
With no wins, no, it doesn't. Exactly right. And that's the anomaly. And that's if people have what's the right word? Look, I'm not blind to the fact that it is so hard to see beyond 0-4, and it's so hard to see beyond the failures because they're slapping us in the face every single week with some of the most fundamental key errors at key times by key position players. But all the stuff that you mentioned there, all the background work, the squad is better. They're playing better. All the fundamentals, as I've said several times already, all these key statistics that you are mentioning they're in place.
Yeah.
And so that lends us to talking about what I see this first month has actually done. I've been thinking about it the last couple of days. And so it's the 28th of March. I can't remember what our first game was. Was it the second or the third or something like that?
Some of that.
So it's been less than a month.
Yeah, fair.
So these 4 wins have happened in the last, what? I'm going to say 25 days. Four wins, 4 games.
Yeah.
So it hasn't even been a month of the season yet. It seemed very long, but it's very easy to forget that it has not yet been a month. However, if this first opening month has done anything for us, it has shown us exactly where our problem now lies moving forward. And it's not like it was not reasonably obvious in the past, but in the past, Brooks has had decent games. In the past, Dewey certainly coming back from injury. We expected a fair bit. He played quite well in 2021. We didn't think it was an issue. Dane Laurie, when he first arrived on the scene, was doing a wonderful job in fullback. We had Charlie Staines coming in. We've got a bit of competition there. So maybe these things aren't issues. In the past, people have argued over, and you and I have argued over, respectfully, of course, what do we need most? Do we need a top-class centre in the back line? Mm-hmm. Do we need an aggressive type A prop to lead the side, a la Jared Warrior-Hargraves? Do we need an elite level second rower like an Angus Crichton or somebody like that? Do we need a game managing organising half like an Adam Reynolds or a Cooper Cronk? Do we need a marquee fullback like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck or somebody like that? And those have all had legit.
Do we need a game breaking hooker like Harry Grant?
There you go. And those things have all been legitimate debates because any one of those things would have improved our side, no doubt. But there were different arguments for or against which would have been the better path to take. It's very clear after this first month of football, our focus has been narrowed and we need 1, if not 2 new halves and quite possibly a fullback. That's it.
Yep.
Because I believe, as we've spoken about, the back line is serviceable enough to play semi-finals. Every week that goes by, I get more more amalgamated in that thought. The forward pack is world class. Bottom line, it can keep improving, but it is definitely good enough. Brooks, experiment's over. Dewey, we're not sure. He may grow into a fullback. I don't believe that's the case. Jury's maybe somewhat out at him. We most definitely need a halfback and possibly a 5'8" or a fullback. Those are the areas. Now, it's easier said than done, but what have we got? We got money, and we've got these guys coming off contract. Both of our fullback options are off contract at the end of the year. Our halfback option is off contract at the end of the year, and our 5'8" just signed, but only for another year, which I'm sure, as of November, if somebody came to him with a decent offer because he was playing decent footy and we were no longer interested, we would probably be more than happy to be able to release him on the right grounds, which basically means that we have spots available. We are not necessarily tied to anybody beyond this year, and we have money. So we know where we're going. We know who the coaching structure is. We know what our forward pack looks like. Our back line, whilst it could probably be improved, is in place enough, we both agree, to be able to get some decent results, and he's looking stronger week on week. So let's get into having a discussion, mate, about what options there possibly are out there in the universe for halves. Now, I've got a list here from Zero Tackle. Do you want me to go through it?
All right, I've got the same list, but yes, go nuts because not everyone's
lovely. Well,
the
too easy. I'll read out the halfback options maybe, and then you can go
Is this
through
for
5'8".
2024 or 2023?
2024, because I think realistically that's our best bet.
Yep.
So we got in halfback, Jacob Arthur, Tanner Boyd,
No.
Phoenix. Oh, we'll just wait till we get to the end. Phoenix Crosland, Jamal Fogarty, Jock Madden, Luke Metcalf, Anthony Milford, Mitchell Moses, who is now re-signed, so he's obviously off that list. Cody Nikorima, Adam Reynolds, Toby Sexton, Chad Townsend, Connor Tracy, and Thomas Weaver. I don't know who Thomas Weaver is. I might add one to that with an asterisk, which would be George Williams, currently under contract over at Warrington. However, we've seen what happens when transfer fees are involved, and those people can quite simply have the capacity to break contract.
Yeah.
So in terms of halfback, we've agreed Brooksy. Unfortunately, his time's done. So what are you doing at halfback? We probably can add Wakeham to that list because he's currently in the system. What do you see as the key thing for halfback, or the key? This is the end of 2024, I'm assuming. So this would be for 2025. What sort of moves are you making?
So first and foremost, and this is another one that I flagged that you're like, no way, he's too old, is Mitchell Pearce to come back for a couple of years. I think he'd come back and finish at 35. I think he's 33 right now, while a few others are getting blooded. That's another option that could be floated. You know, obviously he's a Pearce, so he has a legacy of Balmain. Out of that list that we were talking about then, I would go pretty hard for Jamal Fogarty, personally. I think he's the organizational half that we need. I think that he would add a lot more than any of the current halves that we have, but a lot of other clubs don't have. Can't see him leaving Canberra. I think they'll re-sign him again. But the fact that he is off contract, he's one that I would go hard for. Yourself?
So before I answer that one, I'm going to move up into the 5'8s. And did you just want to go through those quickly, because the answer is there?
The answer is there, is it? It's not the one that just it's not the one that just said that he was going to go on the open contract today, was it?
No.
Okay. So 5'8 is Talatau Moan, Tom Dearden, Dewey, Foran, Tyson Gamble, Jai Gray, Nico Hines, Luke Keary, Jerome Luai, Ezra Mam, Mapalangi, I think that's how you say it, Iverson, Maddai, Matt Moylan, Hayes Perham, Nawai Puru, Simi Sagai, there you go, Paul Turner, Jack White. Sorry for any that I got absolutely blundered. So
if we've truly got money to burn, I'd be throwing 1.5 for 5 years at Nico Hines.
I
In my
can't.
opinion,
I can't see him
he's the form.
ever leaving Cronulla now.
Neither can I. But at the moment, he's currently on a deal worth 850 odd a year, and you're essentially offering to double that. At the very least, it's going to be pushing Cronulla to drive his contract price up a little bit. The other thing to remember is that you've also got at Cronulla, you've got a logjam with Nico Hines, Braden Trindle, Matt Moylan. And at the back, you've got Will Kennedy and Cade Dykes, who's done an ACL but has just re-signed and will be back next year. So something has to give there. That's 5 players for one position. So I would say that you achieve 2 things by going as hard as you possibly can after Nico. One, you probably don't get him. And that's based on our track record. If we were a successful club, different kettle of fish. But at the very least, you drive up his price and you force Cronulla to pay overs for him. Because they've got him at a nick at the moment. No pun intended. You got him for a Nico. He was the best player on the field in the Indigenous All-Stars, and on the weekend, he put on an absolute clinic against St. George. I don't know if you saw his stats at the end of that game, but it was ridiculous. He's the reigning Dally M Player of the Year. You know, this bloke, there's an argument to say that he's possibly the best player in the game at the moment. At the very least, he's in the top 3 to 5, particularly on his day. He's listed in 5'8" for some reason, but he's been playing halfback. So that's first and foremost. If I'm going for a more realistic option, I'd be chasing George Williams. I'd be looking at at paying or figuring out the transfer fee. And the argument that I would make to that is that transfer fees cost money. Memberships bring money. Winning brings memberships, and gun players bring winning. So if you are trying to assemble a squad and that involves paying money out and transfer fees, money that doesn't go on the cap, but money that the club will have to find from somewhere, which they're pretty heavily back. They're in a good position, but I recognise that spending $500,000, $750,000 on essentially a transfer fee, $750,000, $500,000 is not chump change. I know that we don't do that lightly. Clubs don't do that lightly. You have to understand that when you are developing a squad that you want to win, and you have a club that currently has memberships every year on year of over 20,000 people, if that club starts to become successful because you have invested in a squad that is capable of winning, that is going to drive memberships up, which is going to drive crowd numbers up, which is going to drive merchandise sales up, which is going to drive membership fees up, which is going to bring money back into the club as well. Now, George Williams is not the marquee half that I believe some people think that he is. But as far as I'm concerned, he seems to be the best mid-term to possibly long-term option. Now, he's 28 also, but we know halves can play well into their 30s if they need be. So for the time being, for the next 5 to 7 years, if the case was, then he could be that option. Now, you might have just lost me there for a moment, but
I think I
hopefully
did,
not.
yeah.
Okay. So he would be my option. The other thing that I would look at probably would be possibly looking around either the lower grades and looking at someone like Ronald Volkman, who was he's out of the Warrior system, out of the Roosters. He's looked good in the small opportunities he's had in grade, or at the very least in trials. And then I would look to the next up and comers. So you got the likes of Sanders, Ethan Sanders out at Parramatta. You've got, who was the other one I was thinking of? There was another one as well. I can't think of right now. And you look at the next best up and comer, or one or two of them, and you look to get them in the club and teach them. So that's where I currently stand. But unfortunately, that's why we were talking about Moses being so important a month or two back, is because once he's off the market, it's not like there's anybody standing out, one, that would entertain going to the Tigers, or two, is the sort of person you could invest in for extended periods of time. So that in and of itself is a concern, but there's one thing that's certain, and that's the fact that Brooks cannot continue to play halfback for this club if they want to see any form of success into the future. It just can't happen.
No, I agree. 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think that I said to you during the preseason this is make or break season for Brooks. We have built a formidable pack around him to give him the time he needs to make the right decisions. And I think he has made one right decision in 4 games. And that was that show and go and ran through the middle and set up Charlie Stones. I think that's it. He is one too. I don't know what contract he's got, but what about I know that they've obviously got Hunt for another couple of years and they've got big raps on Talatine and Moan, but what about bringing Jaden Sullivan over?
Yeah, look, he's definitely a possibility. I don't see any mid-tier halves as being better enough than Brooks to be worth investing more time and money in. But I guess that's the conundrum, isn't it? Because there's no clear options there. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation, and the leanness on the halves, I guess, shopping front is part of the problem.
Yeah.
In a very Tigers way, we've got all this money to spend and we've got no one to spend it on. The options are pretty slim, and it's definitely a seller's market when it comes to halves. There's not a whole lot of brilliant off-contract testing the open market style halves that you would want to bring into your club, or that are willing to come to a club who hasn't played finals in 12 years. So
look,
it's tricky spot.
It's depressing to think about, but it's the situation that we're in.
So they have to find a solution. That's the bottom line. If I flick to fullbacks, is there anybody there who sparks your interest enough to say that you'd be willing to invest? Because remember, if we're going to get somebody in, it's an investment at that point in time. We need to be able to invest in these people for extended periods of time. There's no more, there might be the odd short-term measure here or there, but we only have this core group of people for 3 to 4 years. Bateman's not here forever. Clemens not here forever. Coruscant's not here forever. And those guys very likely are into their last contract. They may possibly do an extension or so, but it's not going to be overly likely. Here are the list of fullbacks off contract at the end of 2024. I'm assuming that these are correct, but 1 or 2 might not be. Rocco Berry, Jaden Campbell, Tom Chester, no idea. Cade Dykes, Dylan Edwards, Tolatau Kula, Nick Meaney, Cody Ramsey, Sean Russell, Tyrell Sloan. Swali is now obviously signed with rugby. Hamiso Tabiwai Fido, Takamo, Leon Tihau, Stafford Toa, Tuapiki, Sunia Taruva, and Dallin Wateni Zelezniak. Is there anybody on that list that you realistically would not mind, I guess, realistically you could see coming? Realistically, you'd be happy to throw money at and you could invest long-term in them?
Well, I'm going to throw 2 things at you, but first and foremost, Tom Chester is that young fullback that's subbing in for Drinkwater at the Cowboys.
Okay.
So from the list of fullbacks there, I would try to bring Taruva over. I think once Taylor May comes back, obviously him and Toll have those wing positions locked down. Taruva will go back to the pecking order. Dylan Edwards still only, I think, 28. So he's still another 3-4 years left in him at Penrith at fullback, and he definitely has a mortgage on that position. So I'd go for Taruva. But here's one now, given that Swali has gone, probably less likely to happen now, but I would personally throw 1.3 at Joey Manu and get him to play fullback. That's amazing. So I don't think
anybody argues with that. I think the fact that he's a Rooster, I don't know how realistic that one is, but if he was open to testing the market, you absolutely would.
Well, yeah, he's off contract same year, so. But yeah.
How old is Joey Manu now? He must be getting up late 20s.
Yeah, I think he'd be he's 26, only 26.
Wow. He's got a lot of football left in him, that bloke.
But that's the thing. Teddy's signed 2 years. You guarantee that Joey will go back there once Teddy retires.
Teddy's now at the end of 2025, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guarantee that.
Yeah, you think that's pretty locked up.
But
well. Yeah, look, on Taruva, I agree. He'd be the bloke I'd be looking at 100%. I'd be hoping we get to November. I'd be telling Appy, who's his cousin, to get in his ear, and I'd be investing heavily in him. I like everything I see from him. He's quick, he's sharp. By all reports in the juniors and the lower grades, he absolutely has been braining him for the last couple of years, untouchable nearly. So he looks quite the prospect for sure.
Yeah. But and then
There's
also
another.
he's
There's
also got that he's got that connection with Naden and Staines as well. You know, we've got
Yep.
a couple of Panthers boys that can convince him to come over.
So there's another option in terms of fullback out talking transfers, and that is Wellesby. So the England fullback
Yeah.
and the St Helens fullback,
Yeah.
who has openly expressed the fact that he would like one day to play in the NRL. So that just becomes, again, it's another transfer fee discussion, I think.
Yeah, we all know that backs can't make it over here in the NRL. We've seen it time and time again. I'm good. I don't want
Yeah,
another
right, well,
dart on our hands.
what's that?
I don't want another gill dart on our hands.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think it comes down to the individual, and I think that we've seen him do it on a World Cup level against NRL players. We've seen him do it in the World Club Challenge against an NRL team. So, and he's really young. I think he's only 23, and he's won 3 grand finals or something. Done a whole lot of stuff. So he's not a bad option at all.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say no. It'd be good to test to see what a classy player like that can do in the NRL. But yeah, backs in the NRL, it doesn't have a good track record. I mean, I haven't even seen Gildart even in the Q Cup. Is he injured? I don't even know what he's doing up at Dolphins. Is he going home?
Yeah. No, I don't know either. But it's funny how hindsight's a good thing. There was a few reports that came out once he signed with the Dolphins that people were saying, when even back in England before he came to the Tigers, that he was relatively shot. So he'd had a couple of good years, and he really sort of dropped form before he ever moved to the Tigers. So for many people over there, it was never actually a surprise in the first place. So
Okay.
you're 100% correct. If you're a betting man, you wouldn't bet on um, many of the English backs to make much of themselves once they come over here. But no, people are individuals, I guess.
Mm.
All right. Well, yeah. Look, there's always options, and one of the phrases I hate when it comes to football is "it couldn't be worse." Then, oh, it couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse. Things could always be worse. In this situation at the moment, I think that we've found ourselves quite early on in the situation where they need to start planning, but at least they know the area of the squad they need to start
Oh,
planning
you
for.
like to hope they know. Like you're saying they're like pretty confidently they know. I just like to hope they know, to be
I'm I'm
honest.
being I'm being completely ignorant, mate.
Oh, fair.
It's a coping mechanism. I'm a Tiger supporter. Come on.
Yep, fair, fair,
They
fair.
know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly why they're going, where they're going. They know exactly why they picked Stafford Tower on the bench this weekend. They they're all over it.
Speaking of that,
So
good segue into
segue
yeah.
segue of all segues. So the starting side against the Broncos on Saturday night this week is exactly the same as what it was last week. We've got Dewey at fullback, Staines and Tupou on the wings, Naden and Kapoa in the centres. The halves are Wakeham and Brooks. We've got Stefano, Clemmer, and Appy in the front row. Obviously, Appy there at hooker. Papali, Bateman in the second row, and Pole locks the scrum. We've got Jakey Simpkin back in the 14 after being murdered by Saifidi. We've got Twal as the only prop selected on the bench. Justin Mundamua gets a run in the 16, and then Stafford Tower, for some hilarious reason, is a back on the bench. Sean Bloor has been dropped to replacement in 18. Offahan Gowie still out of the squad in 19. Tuki Simpkins, for some reason, is at 20. Dane Laurie, for some reason, is at 21. And then Seafar, thank goodness, is 22. Mate,
Noffa's not
we're,
even
we're
extended. That's the funny
Noff,
part.
well, Noffa's actually injured his foot, some ligaments in his foot on the
Sure,
weekend,
sure.
so he's out for a couple of weeks.
That was it.
And a few whispers behind the scenes that he might have played his last game for the club, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yep.
We've spoken about how the forward pack's coming along. We really like that. We've spoken about how those middle backs and the wingers look okay. Dewey had an okay game on the weekend. We obviously know where we stand with Brooks, and Wakeham's doing an all right job. Just riddle me this, mate. Number 17, Stafford Toa. What's he doing on the bench? What do you have some form of insight into that?
This is, Sheensy's called me and told me exactly what he's doing. You'll see Pole to come off the bench. You'll see Bateman go into lock. You'll see Asu go to the second row, and you'll see Stafford come into the centres.
I can see that.
I'm putting my hat on.
Yeah, I can actually see that's not a bad option at all. I can see actually Matamua, given that they see him as a 13, so essentially a middle. I can see him spending some time in the middle, so that's why they've only got Twal as the one prop. I also see the fact that both Clemmer, Oitoka Manu, and Twal are all big minute props. So I'm thinking that Sheens might actually think that between the three of them, they can cover most of the minutes, and then they can have Matamua as another middle, with also Pole there in the prop rotation as well. Pole's shown that he can play 80 minutes in the middle. So I could see Pole moving into the middle at that point as the fourth prop, with Matamua then jumping into the 13.
Yep.
I like it because it's creativity. I like what I see in Matamua. He's obviously very green, but I do like what I see in him. I think then you might be on the money in terms of Stafford Toa being an option to come in the centres, and then have Kapoa slide into the rotation in second row. I think it's all too fancy. Again, this is a side that's struggling for cohesion, so you're going to make major changes intra-game on several different fundamental positions. So riddle me that, but I don't know. It's Tim Sheens, and Stafford Toa is his Daniel Fitzhenry, apparently.
That's a throwback name. There you go.
Yeah. I do actually like the fact that Jake's back, because what that allows is it gives Appy a break. And as much as we look good with Appy on the field almost all the time, Jake was really pleasing to us, I think, in the first couple of rounds. I don't think it was quite difficult to fault him. He's doing a good job. Excuse me, but then having Appy coming back energized after a little bit of a break could provide us with a little bit of punch. But yeah, look, obviously we know the challenge ahead of us this week.
Yeah, 100%. But hey, if there's anything to sort of put your hat on, we have Brisbane's number over the last few years. So we have beaten them, I think we've beaten them like 4 of the last 5 games. So I remember back when, all of 2000s, basically, they just, every time we played the Broncos, we're like, yeah, we're guaranteed to lose that game. Now, I'm not always sure. So,
yeah, they've got strike all the way across the park, so they're going to be very hard to beat, very formidable. Yeah, how do you see the game playing out, mate?
No, Jesus. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do a Nostradamus for this one because I'm scared. Look, we're not going to win. Broncos are going to win convincingly. And yeah, well, I think it's going to be the final nail in the coffin for Brooks, to be honest. I think we're going to get our chances, and he's going to not take advantage of them at all.
You got a scoreline?
32-6.
32-6. Okay.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to say that we'll be in it for a little while, and we'll be behind from the get-go. We'll always be chasing our tails, and they'll kick away at the end. So I'm going to say 42-16 is the score, and even Naden for another intercept.
Yeah, if you're a betting man, Reece Walsh to make at least 1 or 2 line breaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough day at the office. What's something you're hoping to see?
I want to see Dewey shine at fullback. That's what I want to see. I don't care about our halves anymore. Like, Wakeham's serviceable. He's solid. I've said my part about Brooks. I'm not going to change that until he leaves, to be honest. I'm officially done. So, but I want to see Dewey own that fullback position, Because if he thinks he wants halves money, you're not going to get it because you're not a half. But if you're a decent fullback, you can still make some decent coins. So I want to see him own that position. That'll please me.
All right, very good. I think we matched it in the forwards. I think if our forwards can take it to them, that will please me. So I want to see aggressiveness. I want to see line speed, and I want to see us moving in numbers when we have the ball, offloads, passes at the hip. I want to see them running in pairs. So I want to see the forward pack dominate. Not necessarily dominate the middle, but certainly hold their own and take it to them. If I see that and I see the defence working for each other, then you'll never be happy with a loss, but at least you will see some positive signs.
Yeah.
You have a bold prediction?
Another one. We all know my original one. It's going to happen until it happens. Bold prediction other than Twally getting over the line is, I think more of a what possibly could happen with the Tola selection is you might see Staines be a little bit more of a roaming fullback when he comes on as well in attack. So I think that might happen.
Yep. I'm going to say Wakeham will have 3 try assists.
Hey, that'd be good.
So yeah, he'll have a hand in all 3 of them. He'll throw a ball. He'll put up a high kick for Junior Tupou. And the third one will remain a mystery. We'll have to wait and see for that one.
Chip and chase.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my one. Wakeham to have 3 try assists.
Nice. I like that.
All right, mate. Well, Saturday we'll definitely be watching the game. We are rated a 50-50 proposition as family men to make it to the game because it's in our city. How exciting. We're going to do our best to get there and support the boys like we always say to everybody else. And we're going to try our very best to get to Suncorp as a hostile place as that might be. If you are also in the Sunshine State, which I think for the next couple of days is a little bit unsunshiny, then obviously do your best to get there and support the Gents. They're going to need all the help that they can get. There is also a club function, the same one they ran last year. I'm not sure exactly the details of where it is. I know it's in the city. It's a meet and greet. So that's an opportunity there to go and meet some of the players.
To move on.
Go easy on Brooks.
No, done. I've gone easy.
You're a big old bully, mate. Yeah. So plenty of stuff happening in Tiger Land in Brisbane this weekend. So that's exciting in and of itself. As we always say, hop on the Facebook page, Tiger Town Podcast, or the YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this on right now. Send us a comment, a like, or a direct message. We've been getting more and more of those each week, so we love it. Listen to us on Spotify. We always say the other 2 podcasts, give them a listen. They do stuff better than us, West Tigers Podcast and West Life Podcast. And, mate, I think for now, we've got yet another game to look forward to, and we're going to keep dissecting every Tuesday evening as this season wears on, and hopefully sooner or later we're going to have some positives to talk about, or we've got positives, we're going to have some wins to talk about.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
All right, mate, on that note, let's close it with Go the Tigers.
Go the Tigers, don't go Brooks.